by far the number one question that I get asked on this channel over and over again is how do I get cruise ship gigs? Well, in today's video, that's exactly what I'm going to show you. What is up, guys? My name is Ben Hartwell. Thanks for checking out the channel. If it's your first time here, or even if it's not, please consider smashing that subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. So, cruise ship gigs, sometimes regarded as the holy grail of gigs for musicians. They're really well paid, you get to travel the world, and you play music the whole time. But they can be a little bit difficult to get. These days there are quite a few ways you can actually go about getting cruise gigs. The majority of the companies that actually book for cruise gigs now have online portals that you can fill in with all your information and all your promo material. But still, my favourite way, and the way that I still think is the best to get cruise ship gigs, is with showcases. So if you don't know what a showcase is, it's basically an event put on by a booker or an agency to showcase all of the acts that they look after and try and sell all those acts out to other companies like cruise ship companies. There are loads of different kinds of showcases. Some of them are really small and just take place over a few hours. Some of them are massive and take place over a few days. I've recently been invited to go to a showcase to showcase my new show with a company called Romantic, who I used to do a lot of work for before COVID. And so I thought I'd bring you guys along so I can show you everything that happens during the process of doing a showcase and how I actually go about getting these cruise gigs. This showcase is quite an interesting one, actually. For starters, it's not even in the UK, which means that I need to fly to this showcase, which actually gives me a really good opportunity to test pack all my gear that I'm going to be taking on the cruise contract that I'm doing in December. And it's also a really big showcase. The showcase takes place in Mallorca, and this year it is at a really cool venue called Sonomar. And looking at the information that I've been sent about who's going to be there, looks like there's going to be some really big players there. So I've just come down to the studio now to pack up my bits and pieces as I fly out tomorrow in the morning. And once we're there, they're doing rehearsals in the afternoon. And then the day after is the actual showcase itself. And whilst I do think it is good that all these places have portals online now where you can give all your information, I do still think that a showcase is a better way of doing it, because it means that the bookers actually get to see what you're like live. And the majority of these showcases also have a meet and greet afterwards, so they can see what you're actually like as a person, not just what you're like on stage. Because a lot of what the job is of being on a cruise ship is not only what your performance is like, but also what you're like as a person and how you're going to interact with all the other people on a cruise ship. And so these showcases give you a really great way of showing how you are at doing that. So that's it today from the studio. No more messing about. I need to pack up my stuff and get gone. Just a forewarning, I am not taking this camera with me because I'm already having to travel with quite a bit of gear. So any footage that you see once I've left the studio is going to be on my iPhone. Morning, it is 5:15 in the morning. It's an early one, but we've got a sound check in Mallorca this afternoon, so we've got to get up and get gone. Everything's packed. Guitars, flight cases. Let's do it. So we've made it to the venue. Everything's running a little bit behind us, as often happens with these showcases. So today is full of rehearsals. It's just all rehearsals all day. You might be able to hear Michael Jackson in the background. So we've come upstairs to our little dressing room. We've got to get changed, then get downstairs and just kind of be on call, ready to do our sound check as and when they're ready for us. So we've just done our quick sound check and line check. It's the actual day now. You can hear that some other people are checking now. Things are a bit chaotic. There's people running about all over the place. The doors actually haven't opened to let everyone in yet, so it is kind of the calm before the storm. But everything sounds great on stage. It's really good that we've had a chance to connect everything in the line check before everybody gets here, so I'm not worrying about gear now. I know that everything's going to be okay. So now we just have to kind of chill out and wait about an hour and a half, and then it'll be time to do our thing.
Right here, right now.
And I'm back. What a great showcase that was. The way that Romantic run that showcase is so professional and so slick end to end. I just love doing that one. So the showcase went really well. We had really great response about the new show. Just kind of a waiting game now. So not all showcases run exactly the same, but I'll run you through how this one went. So the Romantic showcase is actually split over 2 days. The reasons for them doing this are because it's not their own venue. They hire the venue, so they need to get a lot of stuff set up in the actual venue itself. And because there are so many acts performing, they actually dedicate the entire first day to tech and performance rehearsals. So we arrived the same day as rehearsals, so we went pretty much straight from the airport to the venue. And because it's the day before the big showcase, things were a little bit chaotic. People were running about all over the place trying to get things done and set up, but things actually lined up pretty well. They were actually at a point when we got to the venue where they were ready for me to set up my gear and start line checking. So we could load in straight onto stage. There's actually an act just finishing up, but they were using a different part of the stage because it's a massive stage at Sonomar. So we were given one half of the stage and they were on the other half of the stage, so I could set up whilst they were finishing off. Then it was just a case of line checking everything, getting some decent levels, talking with the tech team that they had there about what we actually wanted from the performance, talking about the kind of lighting that we wanted, what we wanted from the screens, because the entire back of that venue is one massive LED screen, so you can pretty much do whatever you want. So we had a few visuals that we were going to put up behind us, talking about some of the different looks that we wanted throughout the set and just the general kind of vibe We didn't really have too many cues to give them. We just kind of gave them an outline of what we were going to do and then let them have free reign, because that tech team is so good that I'm just kind of happy to let them do whatever they want to do. And then because Romantic have actually got that venue all day, we were allowed to do an entire run through of our performance, and it's at this point that sometimes bookers and management will get involved and have a few things to say about what they want you to do during the performance. They might want you to change a few things, or they might want you to be in a specific spot on the stage during a certain part of your performance. Little bits of choreography and things like that they might want to change. For us, there was actually nothing that they wanted to change. They were happy with the way that we'd worked out the set and what we did throughout the whole performance. So once we'd run through and we were happy and comfortable with the stage setup and everything, that was kind of it for the day. We were allowed to strike and get everything off the stage. Everything's saved digitally these days with the desk and the lighting, and everything's marked out on stage, so nothing needed to stay on stage. And as there's so many acts coming and going, they wanted to get the stage clear. So it's just a case of the next day bringing things in, connecting up exactly the same and recalling any presets that they've made. And that was kind of it for day one. Now, not all showcases have big rehearsal time like this. Sometimes they do it on the day and you just turn on, plug in, do a quick line check, get some levels, try and get as comfortable as possible. You might have 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes and that's it, then they want you off the stage. So it is a bit of a luxury the way we get to do it here with Romantic. But the one thing I would say to try and achieve during this sound check time is to get just as comfortable as possible with the staging, the lighting and the sound. The last thing you want to be doing when it comes to the actual performance is to be having to ask the techs to change stuff about the sound or the lights or have things moved or anything like that. This is what the sound check's for. Get it all worked out here in the sound check, so when it comes to the actual performance, you're ready to just perform. So once we cleared the stage and got everything packed, we were free to leave the venue, and we didn't have to be back in the venue until the next morning, I think around 10 AM. So just had a bit of a chilled night, not really worrying too much about my performance because showcase sets have to be so short. I like to rehearse them quite a lot so I know exactly what I'm doing to try and minimize mistakes and make sure that I'm not running over at all on that allotted time. Because in some showcases, if you go over your allotted 10-15 minutes, they will cut you off. And that's definitely not something I wanted to happen during this set. So it's the next day, morning of the showcase. Make sure that I got to the venue in plenty of time. It's a good idea to get there well ahead of your allotted time, so that if they do call on you to set up early, you're ready and able to do so. The flip side of that is things are chaotic right before a showcase, so you want to make sure that you are available, but you don't want to be in the way. So we had to kill about 45 minutes to an hour, I think, before we could do anything in the venue, which was fine. They were sound checking and line checking a lot of other acts and finalising bits and pieces for their performances. So we just loaded in and were shown to our dressing rooms. This is where the nerves can start to build a little bit because you can hear all the other acts performing on stage whilst you're just sitting around waiting for your turn. But sooner than you think, a tech is going to come to you and tell you that they're ready for you. So the biggest thing that I'm always worrying about at these showcases is the tech side of things. I'm always worried that something hasn't been plugged in right, or I'm going to hit my guitar and nothing's going to come out, or the monitors aren't going to be loud enough, or the lights aren't going to work, because so much is out of your control and is in the hands of the techs. But one of the good things at this showcase is that we got a quick line check before the doors even opened. So all my gear was set up. I could check everything really quickly, which really helped set me at ease because I knew everything was going to work, or at least everything was working when we tried it. So I wasn't really worrying about the tech side of things and I could focus much more on the performance. So once everything's set, it's just a big waiting game, waiting for your allotted time to get on stage. This is the bit that I hate because you're just sitting around waiting for what seems like an eternity backstage, listening to all these other acts get really good receptions and just thinking, I really need to step up and do the best performance that I possibly can. It's really easy to get in your head and start worrying about it, but one of the best ways I've found with dealing with it is actually the social side that comes along with these showcases, because backstage there are literally hundreds of people, all these different acts. So I like to move around backstage at the venue, chat to some of these other acts, find out what their act is, what they're doing, what they have been doing, you know, where they're traveling and all those kind of things. And it was great at this showcase because we had some friends backstage who were also performing. So we hung out with them for a little while and chatted about what they were doing for their performance. And then before you know it, you're down to 2 or 3 acts before it's your turn to get on. Again, here, time management is really important. You want to be ready in any costumes that you're going to be wearing. You want all your tech sorted, anything that you need to take on stage with you, and be waiting in the wings well ahead of your allotted time. But again, not being in the way of anything else that's going on or other acts that are coming on and off stage. So I like to be completely ready about 3 acts before I'm due to go on, and then about an act or 2 before I'm due to go on, I'll go and find the stage manager, let them know that I'm ready and where I am. It's really cool at this venue because they actually have a live feed of the stage coming through to backstage on a big TV, so you could actually watch the acts and you knew exactly how the running order was going. And then sooner than you think, it's time to hit the stage and do your performance. And then quicker than you can ever imagine, it's done and dusted and you're off the stage. Usually there'll be text that'll help you strike everything and get off as quick as possible, but the way that this one actually fell, we were the last act on before the dinner break, so we were able to really take our time. So we got off the stage, all the bookers left the venue to go to the meal, and then we could take our time and have as long as we really needed to strike everything and get off the stage. And this brings us to the next most important part of these showcases. It sometimes works out that the performance isn't even the most important part of the showcase. The networking side that goes along with these showcases can be much more important than what you actually do on the stage. So for the romantic showcase, they actually split into 2 halves, a morning session and an afternoon session, and they do a big meal for all the bookers and all the acts right in the middle. This is an amazing opportunity as an artist because all the bookers are there in one place and you can just mingle about and get to know everybody that you're interested in working with. A couple of pieces of advice I would say here though: do approach the people that you're interested in working with, but don't be pushy with your act and don't just try and go for the biggest name that's there and try and hog all their time. It's important to remember that all these bookers talk to each other, so if you come across as a bit of a to one of them, they're going to tell all the other people that are at that event. Also, these lunches go by really quickly, so you don't want to monopolize anybody's time. You just want to try and make sure that everybody's aware of who you are, and if anybody wants to come and talk to you directly, you're available for them to do that. Mostly what ends up happening is if a booker is interested in you, they'll come and find you themselves. They'll want to know things like where you've performed the act before, what you're hoping to get out of the showcase, where you wanted to perform the act in the future, all those kind of things, as well as just getting a general sense of who you are and what the act does outside of the 10-minute performance that they've just seen. So just make sure that you're nice and approachable and really use the time to your advantage to get to chat to as many people as you need to, because before you know it, all those bookers are going to be heading back inside for the next load of performances. And once that happened at this showcase, we were kind of free to do what we wanted. So we stayed around and watched the rest of the performances because it's a really good way to see some other acts. If, like me, you're gigging all the time, you don't ever get a chance to see what other acts are doing. So a showcase is a perfect opportunity because you're going to see loads of them all doing really short sets. Once the showcase is actually finished, everyone obviously leaves the venue. Then depending on the showcase, there's sometimes another social meeting. So for the romantic showcase it was held at a hotel later on that evening. And again, it's another really good opportunity to meet a load of bookers and discuss your act. But the same kind of rules apply as before. They obviously do want to know about your act, but they also want to find out about you. So you want to use this time with the bookers to your advantage. By all means, talk about the act and what you're hoping to achieve, but also use it as a kind of social engagement to try and find out about the bookers and the agents. Because just because there's a booker there from a certain cruise company that you think you might be a perfect fit for, once you get to chat to them and you find out a bit more about the ins and outs about what actually goes on those contracts, you might kind of find out that that's probably not going to be the best fit for what you're hoping to achieve. And also the opposite is true. You might not be expecting a certain company to be any good for what you're wanting to do with your act, but then after chatting with them for a little while and they start talking to you about what it is that they actually want to achieve, it could end up being the perfect fit. Okay, so that's how the romantic showcase went. But let me give you a quick rundown of everything you need to know for any other showcase. So in the UK, there are showcases throughout the year, but they do tend to be towards the back end of the year as the bookers want to book for the next year. And they're also up and down the country, so you can usually find one that's not too far from you. But I would suggest trying to get on the bigger ones. So if that does mean traveling, then that might be something that you just have to do. Make sure you book onto these showcases well in advance because they do book up. There's one that I wanted to do this year that actually is already booked, so I can't get on it. And the majority of the time you will have to pay to be on the showcase. As for the showcases themselves, you're usually allotted 10 to 15 minutes of stage time. This is usually very strict on the day. You want to make sure that you do not run over this stage time because there are certain showcases where they will just turn you off. So you want to pre-plan your set well ahead of time, make sure that you are under the allotted time, make sure you've got all the best bits of your act crammed into that short amount of time and you're showing yourself off to the absolute best that you can do in that 10-minute segment. A way a lot of acts do this is to do a medley, as it means you can get a lot of material into a very short amount of time. For the majority of the showcases I've done, you will be sent some kind of information pack ahead of the actual showcase date. This pack will usually have tech information about the venue and what you might need to bring with you. It'll also have some general information about how to get to the venue, what the opening times are, how things are going to run on that day, and sometimes they also include a client list of what bookers and agents are going to be there on the day. This can be really useful because it means you can tailor your 10 minutes on stage to the people that you know are going to be in that venue. All the showcases usually have some kind of compere. They'll be running the showcase and helping make sure everything sticks to its time slot, but one of their jobs is also to introduce you onto stage. So before you get on stage, it's usually a good idea to find the compere, have a quick chat with them and make sure that anything that you want to be said for your intro is going to actually be said. The other part of the compare's job sometimes is also to do an interview with you after your performance. It's a good idea to give them some pointers, kind of tell them the kind of things that you wanted to achieve and what kind of questions they should ask, and then the compere will usually tailor the interview so that you get to say everything you wanted to say. On the showcase day, you want to make sure that you arrive in plenty of time. You want to make sure that you've got all your gear that you need easily accessible with spares just in case the worst should happen. You want to be getting on and off stage as quickly as possible, causing as little fuss as possible. You want to get through any sound check or line check as quickly as possible. If the tech team say to you, you have 2 or 3 minutes just to do a line check and get some levels, only do 2 or 3 minutes. This is not an opportunity to go through your entire set if that's not what they've got time to do. Just get the line check done, get the levels right, and get off the stage. Once your performance is done, you want to strike the stage as quick as possible. If you're unfamiliar with the term striking a stage, it means getting things off the stage and back into the wings or backstage as quickly as possible. This isn't a pack away on stage, this is get your stuff off the stage and get it packed backstage. Other people are going to be coming onto the stage and setting up their gear, so you need to clear your stuff as quickly as possible. Once you've done your performance and everything's packed away, chances are there is going to be a social. This is your chance to network, and this is where all the business is usually done. So get out there and get mingling amongst all the bookers and agents. Let them know who you are and which act you were, because they've sat through 20, 30, 40, maybe even more acts than that, so they might not remember who you were, but if you remind them which act you were, hopefully you were memorable enough that they can put 2 and 2 together. Get chatting about your act and what you want to achieve, and then before you know it, everything will be winding down, it'll be time to head home. So there you go, guys. That is, in my opinion, the easiest way to get cruise contracts. You have all the people booked for cruise contracts in a single venue, and you get to show them your act all at once. Not only that, but a lot of the times you also get a meet and greet with them afterwards, so you can actually chat to them in person. For me, I think that is a much better deal than just filling in some online portal and hoping that somebody gets back to you. So my advice would be to hit as many of the showcases as you can, although a lot of the same bookers do tend to go to all the showcases, so you might only need to hit the big ones. Give the best performance you possibly can do in 10 minutes, go to the meet and greets afterwards, meet all the people and chat about your act, and chances are you will get some work out of it. Maybe not the work that you thought you were going to get out of it, but I've always got work from doing showcases. And if you don't, it doesn't hurt for all these people to see your act and know who you are on the scene. So there you go, guys. I hope you liked this video, and I hope it's been useful to some of you guys that are hoping to get cruise contracts. And I hope that I have finally answered the question of how I go about getting cruise contracts. Simple, just showcases. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up below. If you want to watch another video on my channel, you can do it just up here. And don't forget to subscribe. You can do it right there. I'll see you in the next one.